vibing with another show. Tell me everybody, can you catch this flow? We're breaking down mental glass and so you know who we win. Tony Dixon and friends, they tell me that the sky's the limit. Your purpose calling you, baby, you make the difference. Take charge, do you know who you win? Tony Dixon and friends, who we win? Tony Dixon and friends, yeah. Tony Dixon and friends, Tony Dixon and friends, who we win? Tony Dixon and friends.
I said, wow. And so I woke up, man, I was awakened like early this morning, and I look up from the bed and look up, because a lot of stuff, like, they still have what I left. I look up there and I see a VCR tape, Alabama, Mississippi All-Star. I said, you gotta be kidding me. Yeah. I went and popped that thing in. I said, oh yeah, I'm recording. But I had the volume low because Mom was still asleep. But no, I'm gonna get it up. I'm gonna chop it up for you.
I gotta get that.
You gonna take it and send it to her. Come on, man.
Yeah.
But no, man, I thought I was gonna get exposed in that game, because the only time I remember we played man-to-man.
Yeah.
Once in high school, it was playoffs. We were playing Hartsel, and they had I forgot the guy's name, real good receiver.
Oh yeah.
And
he was in that game, right?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
he was.
Because he was our feature receiver.
Mm-hmm. But that was the only time that we really practiced at Central, man to man.
Yeah.
And so when I got there, that's all we were running was man to man, pretty much in practice, and I was getting torched all week.
Yeah.
In practice, and yeah, because he was the one burning me in practice. Because I didn't know when to look back or whatever, and so I was just getting beat, and I was like, man, this is about to be a bad game.
Yeah.
And ended up, I had I think like 4 tackles, 4 pass breakups, and that block kick in that game. So
yeah.
But it's funny now when you think about that stuff, man, and just to where we are today and some of the stuff that we talk about in the world. It's about the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Right? Like you were in a disguise, so to speak. You knew who you were, but then all of a sudden you were placed in a different environment, and you just trying to find your way to fit in, man. And like, how often today do we like mask, like, that do I really belong here, man?
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. Look, before we keep going, welcome to the Tony Dixon and Friends podcast. I'm Eric McCalpine today, and I'm here with my guys, Mr. Kecalf Bailey.
What's up?
And I'm also here with my big bro, Mr. Tony Dixon.
What's up? What's up?
Yeah, man, before we got started, man, what ended up happening, Tony went back home and stayed with his family overnight, and you saw a clip of the Alabama-Mississippi high school football game, and you all were teammates. And it's funny, they called him Kecalf Bailey, the blanket.
The blanket.
Why?
Because he can cover anything.
But then I think, you were talking, Kecalf, like, the high school that we came from, we played zone defense. And again, we'll start with sports. This is not a sports whatever, we'll take it wherever it goes.
Yeah.
But you came in as a zone cover cornerback, and now all of a sudden you went to the Mississippi Alabama high school game, and they forced you to play man.
Yeah.
And you said like you thought you were going to get exposed, man. And like, tell us about that, man.
Yeah. No, you're right. So at Central, that's it was cover 3, cover 2. That's what we ran, right? Occasionally we would run man to man, but that was only a goal line situation. So very little ground that you got to cover. Well, show up to this Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game, and our base defense was they put the corners on the island.
Yeah.
We playing man to man. And so at practice, all week long, leading up to the game, I'm getting beat to sleep. And I'm like, man, I'm not used to this. What's going on? And so I'm in my head, and I'm like, when game time gets here, I know these boys from Mississippi about the slang the ball. They had Romero Miller as their quarterback who went to Ole Miss. And you just look at all of the yards that he put up slinging the ball around in high school, man. And I was just like, man, I'm about to be in for a tough game because of how I performed at practice that week. But ended up, had one of the best games of my life. 4 tackles, 4 pass breakups, and a blocked punt in that game. So I was in my head, but I actually went out and had one of my best showings of my life.
But it's crazy when you sit back and think about, you were pulled out of your comfort zone. And, we sitting here today reminiscing on, our high school and college days, but now we're grown men. Was that the last time that you've ever been in a uncomfortable situation outside of your comfort zone?
Nah, man, no. Uncomfortable situations that, you're never going to avoid those. And that's been consistent throughout my life. And, sports and football have prepared me to be able to handle those things a lot better. But we also have to be aware, too, that those things that serve us well from sports that we take into the real world, some of those things, if we're not careful, they don't serve us very well. So learning how to mask, as a cornerback, that's what I do. I have to have a short memory, right? You beat me, the receiver's going to talk mess about it. I'm like, all right, line up for the next play. Let's see what's about to happen, right?
Yeah.
And so we learn how to mask those things to lock in and to get back into the situation. But sometimes masking it is not always good. You have to be able to learn from situations and be able to deal with emotions to be able to overcome things sometimes. And so that's the thing that I've learned is that trait of being able to move to the next play is good, but also we got to learn how to dig a little bit deeper too and deal with those things in a moment. So.
But then you and Tony were on the same team that for that All-Star game, and then move on to become roommates. But you said a couple of things that I wanted to call out. You talk about masking, and TD, me and you've talked about this several times. Dude, come on, man, look at you. You 6'2", 6'3", 240. You got it going on. But you've shared with us over time as you opened up about times that you've masked situations in your life, man. You felt like you were by yourself, man.
Yeah. It goes back to when I actually did the work to find out where it stemmed from. Growing up in Reform, and especially my reasons for going out, football. I know we joked about it being about that jersey, but I went from being the worst player on the team, scared to hit and get hit, to figuring it out. And now it went from I'm just showing up for the jersey to now all of a sudden that joy turned to pressure. Yeah. Right? Because pressure to perform, pressure to, I knew, nobody had to tell me, and as much as I wanted to dumb it down, I knew if I had a bad game, we were going to lose. Now, me having a good game didn't guarantee a win, but it definitely guaranteed a loss.
Yeah.
And that pressure started getting so heavy to where, honestly, as accolades started rolling in, the more times you go to that well for affirmations or, hey, man, you saw I got this, the more they can be like, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You got another award. That's cool. And, and I had this thing happen to me later on in my life with a woman that was like my second mom. And I'll never forget, her son was going through some challenges. He wasn't getting recruited the way he had hoped to be. So, of course, he was down and going through a lot, which as a mother, she's feeling for her son. And during that time, that's when Notre Dame came down. Came to Tuscaloosa, Charlie Strong. Came to Tuscaloosa, then came down to Reform and stopped in to check on Tony Dixon. Yeah. But didn't call his name. And I'll never forget going and having that conversation. Innocent. It was innocent, and talking about the experience. But at the same time, I was aware that, wow, my friend's not going through that. But she said words that actually cut me up that day and took me on the path of 20 years of dim in my light. And those words were this: I could hate you if I didn't love you so much.
Wow.
And it took me a while to process that. I'm like, wow, I didn't come at you arrogant. I really didn't come extra celebratory, but I could hate you if I didn't love you so much from that person. Now, I was already used to the people I'm playing against hating on me. That was cool. But somebody that you have within your inner circle saying that, and from that day forth, like literally every accolade that came after that, I would not talk about it. I started dimming it. I didn't want to receive it because I knew some people can't handle that amount of shine that you have. And quite candidly, it got to a point where it was like hot potato. I didn't want it anymore.
Yeah.
All right. So it was funny. I told people as I started to process it, I said I had a fear of being great. And it all stemmed from, I could hate you if I didn't love you so much. So that's from a masculine standpoint. Somewhere in somebody's life, something like that happened.
Yeah.
Whether it was, as direct as that situation or another, everybody in life has had, that crossroad where something happened. You went to the parent, happy about your A's and B's, and they said it ain't straight A's, right? You got the job and thought you was going to make some amount of money. You didn't make the money you made. You waiting for the promotion. You don't get the promotion. At some point, you go through a scenario where you think like things are going to go a certain way and then it don't. And it's two things you can do. You either acknowledge it and move on to it and just say, hey, this is their emotion. That's how they're dealing with it. Or you do the mistake that I did where you internalize it. And what you do is you put up a wall to say nobody's going to hurt me like that again.
Yeah.
And that's when the mask can start, because to unveil your mask, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be vulnerable.
But as men, why do we feel like we should mask stuff? Like you said it, man. Like, think about, why do we always feel like we've got to dim our lights for other people? I get it. Like, it's one thing to go through and have success and you be arrogant about it. But in some cases, man, God is putting you in position to have the success so you can get the attention to glorify Him.
Yeah.
Because you don't realize somebody else is watching you.
Yeah.
Somebody else is watching you, Kecalf. Like, people are watching some of the things that you've done. You've had some things that you've gone through in your life that you've been on the next level, and you said that some things you don't like to talk about it. Why?
Man, so this is therapy here. Yeah, because really, I mean, as Tony's sitting there talking about this, a lot of things are resonating. And so, though I don't know that moment that caused me to be in the mindset of dimming my light for others or whatever it is, I can't pinpoint it in my mind like you were just able to do it. However, I'm just thinking about moments to where I do walk in that space of dimming my light and not. I mean, there's some accomplishments that I've had in my life that people would, just kill to have those opportunities, and I downplay them in discussions. You're absolutely right.
Like what? What example do you think people are kill to have? Give me one.
I'll give you this one. So, we just talked about it. Football is, kind of, one of the biggest things in my life. It's been when I started playing when I was 6 years old, and so something that early on. Well, my entire life, I dreamed about making it to the NFL. Okay. When I talk about my football experience, it dies at Alabama.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It dies at Alabama. That's where it is. I tell people that I played for the University of Alabama. But the greatest achievement that I made was playing for the San Diego Chargers. The same rookie year as LaDainian Tomlinson. He was the first draft pick for that team, and Drew Brees was the second round draft pick for that team. Junior Seau was on that team, and So getting a chance to be in that moment. But that's one of the greatest achievements in my life when it relates to sports. And I downplay it in discussions.
Yeah.
Well, it's more, I avoid it. The conversation usually goes like this, or when it would come up, is if people will be in discussions, whether it's at work or other social functions, of, well, do you have an NFL team, Kecalf? And I'll say, yeah, the Chargers. Why do you follow the Chargers? And I'm like, well, they gave me my first opportunity. I signed a free agent deal with them. I didn't make the team. I played all 4 preseason games with them, but they cut me before the first game. That's usually how I talk about it.
Yeah.
The greatest achievement in my life.
Yeah.
That's the way I talk about it.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's crazy when we think about that stuff, right? Like you've accomplished something that so many other people would aspire to have. But the way I look at some of the accomplishments that we have today, you know, when you think about it, it's just a hook. There's a lot more in you, Kecalf Bailey, that you have to offer me. There's a lot more in you, TD, that you have to offer me. But the San Diego Chargers is just a hook to get you close to me. You know what I'm saying? The Dallas Cowboys is just a hook to get you to me. Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is the hook to get you to me. And now that they're in your presence, now you're able to let his presence be known and be felt. You know, and it's just crazy, man, as we sit here and think about how many times have we missed the opportunity to bless other people because we want to, you know what I'm saying, dim our light.
Yeah, I want to hit on that because I think the interesting component about this is, you know, as I hear my old roommate, you know, my brother, saying this, the part that he don't know is this, that one of the reasons I didn't celebrate getting drafted was because he and my other roommate didn't. I never shared that with him before.
No, it's my first time hearing this.
And, you know, there's a certain, like, one of our roommates, his situation wasn't that of ours. Now, his family's situation was the same, but we know why he wanted to get to that level, right? And candidly, the reason I learned how to be a headhunter the way I was is from him. Night Train Lane.
Night Train.
Come on, train.
But to hear him say that, there's 2 versions of this. It's like, one, you know, being drafted in second round, I didn't see that coming. I ended up being the first drafted of our class that year in second round. And people that were supposed to go before me didn't.
Yeah.
So that was like, wow, like I didn't see that coming. Then to not see my brothers get drafted, I know where their heart was. I know what they wanted. Didn't see that coming. I joke about me playing my senior year as a business decision, you know, so arguably somebody would say, well, his heart wasn't in it or his aspirations wasn't on the level of other people, but yet he's getting blessed in this. And then to hear him talk about that and dimming it, the funny part is I do the same thing. Now, here I am vested in NFL, started in NFL, still have some co-records for Dallas Cowboys for some of the things I achieved there. The crazy part about that is even though it's 2 different versions of the story, the results of how we explain it is the same.
Yeah.
I am hesitant to talk about Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to have the 10-year season. I wanted to have the Super Bowls. I wanted to have the Pro Bowls. I wanted to be that guy, right? And even though I started, was an ambassador for Dallas Cowboys, even to this day, still do community service events for them and representing that family, that team. There was a lot of time when people would be like, Tony Dixon, that name sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Like, why do I know that name? I was like, I don't know. I would literally say, I don't know. And my wife would be like, Tony, stop it. Yeah. I'm like, stop. I was like, I don't, it's going to bring up more conversations. She was like, stop it. Allow people to celebrate you know, you and recognize you, because some people are diehard fans. Yeah. And to the point you just made, if I don't walk into that, if you don't step into that, you miss the opportunity to now talk about why you're more than football.
Yeah. Yeah.
You miss it because some people stop right there. You had that situation?
No. So, I mean, like I told you, man, this is therapy right here today, man, because, you know, it's just it's a flood of emotions and things here. And, you know, the goal here is not to have revelations and have regret. It's about to have revelations and say, man, how do we go and fix this? How do we go and let our light shine and what God has blessed us to be able to achieve? And you just said that because it's going to bring up more conversation. Good.
Yeah.
That's what we want, because we can be able to share this is how God has blessed us and in ways to overcome and different things like that. And this made me think about it, man. I've dimmed it just in discussions with my kids. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking back to a conversation in line at the pizza joint with my daughter, and she was like, Daddy, why didn't you play in the NFL? And I said, I did. She was like, oh, you did? And I had to explain that to her. This is my 11-year-old daughter, man.
Wow.
My 11-year-old daughter, man. So this is great for me, because now I've got some takeaways to go back and say, you know what? Let me have some real conversations with those that I love. Just so that they can understand. My kids need to understand where they come from and what they have the capabilities of achieving and doing. And
so now you're gonna go back and tell it. And before we got started, I was just telling you about my morning devotion this morning, and I was reminded of the story in the Bible about the monster, the demon legion, and how Jesus removed all of the evil out of him. Right? When he removed all of the evil out of him, what was Jesus' direction to Legion after he did that? He said, go and show and tell others of the goodness of God that has been in you. And I think that's what I'm walking away with right now, man. We all got different things in our lives that are so special, but it's a hook. It's a hook to get people close to us. And once you get close to me, I can put my arms around you, and then I can really pour into you, man. Man, wow.
Yeah, it's major.
Wow,
that's major,
man.
That's major.
You know.
Yeah, because the whole thing behind it is, it's human nature to get caught up in whatever you're doing as your identity.
Yeah.
Right. Even if you don't choose to. Kecalf and I arguably were always student first.
Yeah.
If you talk to the underclassmen, they will talk about the fact that Kecalf and I was about our books.
Yeah.
Like first, you know, here I am missing practices on certain days because I chose to go with the business advisors versus the student athlete advisors.
Yeah.
I changed the game.
Yeah.
And while I'll never get the credit, it's not about that. But the reality is, what we know is that if Tony Dixon wouldn't have set the tone to graduate in 3 years, you wouldn't have the run of people
that have done it
after me. So our graduation rates are because of things that I walked in the space of. And you know why? It's because I was mad that when I talked to a business advisor, and they was like, hey, are you on a 3-2 program? 3-2, what's that? I don't know what that is. And she was like, 3-2, get your undergrad in 3, a master's in 2. You're probably going to get red-shirted now. I didn't get red-shirted, so I didn't do the 3-2, but now I'm mad that they didn't tell me.
They didn't tell you about it.
Now, how did you not tell me that there's a possibility of graduating college early? So, of course, here I am doing interim 1, interim 2, summer 1, summer 2, going school year-round after a freshman year that I didn't get all the maximize my credits.
Yeah.
But still could graduate in August of 2000, graduate in December 2000. My point in saying that is that, you know, going back to what you said, the hook, right? The hook. Sometimes you run over that and don't even realize the value of that. And even talking to those young guys like Smoke and Marvin Constant and all these cats, they'll sit there and be like, wait a minute, what TD doing? How is TD and Kecalf getting this done?
Yeah.
So unbeknownst to us, we were setting a pace. And it put us in a situation where we became targets for the coach. So part of that is, and that followed me into NFL, by the way.
Yeah.
And you know what they said? They questioned my commitment to football.
To the game.
Because he was committed to education.
Yeah.
And that followed me to NFL.
Yeah.
Then said, and literally one of the scouts told me, the buzz behind you is that they don't know if you committed. Now, you talking about a guy his junior year that separated his shoulder, was getting shot up every game to play that, delayed my surgery into the offseason, and then didn't start a lot of my senior season games and still got drafted in the second round?
Yeah.
So that's the second part to this, I could hate you if I didn't love you so much story, because now here I am knowing I'm good enough, but somebody's in my way, right? That's a whole nother scenario until his point of talking to the kids. Like, even I remember meeting his son not too long ago, and one of the things Kecalf acknowledged was like, hey, you used to play for the Dallas Cowboys. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, but you played for the Chargers.
Throwing it back at him. Yeah.
So everything he's saying that this is like, these are the type conversations we have to have. And to the point you made earlier, why do we dim it so much is because I think as black men and even men in general, it's not even just black men, it's just your human nature is you never think you're good enough.
Yeah.
You never think you're good. You never think what you did is good enough. And I still say one of the worst things we heard as growing up was act like you've been there before.
Act like you've been there before.
I ain't been there before. How can I act like I've been there before? Yeah. Right? So hand the ball to the rep. Why? Listen, this may be the last time I score.
Yeah.
So why am I not gonna celebrate that? Because if you don't celebrate those small victories along the way, when failure hit, you don't have any stored up celebratory energy to pull from. And why do you think you hit rock bottom when you hit failure? Because you didn't take those times to appreciate and celebrate and get that storehouse of gratitude.
Yeah.
Come on.
Because without gratitude, you have nothing.
Yeah.
So that's the answer. That's how I answer that question.
Wow.
Man, it's good.
Hey, thank y'all so much. Continue to watch and follow us with the Tony Dixon and Friends podcast, where our goal is to continue to hope to educate, inspire, and challenge you to break those mental glass ceilings. I'm Eric McCalpine, Kecalf Bailey, Mr. Tony Dixon. Thank y'all so much.